Tonight on Reporting Scotland. The former SNP MP Michelle Thompson won't face criminal proceedings following a police investigation into alleged mortgage fraud. Criminal proceedings against the former SNP MP Michelle Thompson will not go ahead. She'd been the subject of a police investigation into allegations of mortgage fraud. Well, today the Crown Office said there was no credible or reliable evidence against her. Our political correspondent Nick Ardley is here. Nick, remind us of the background to this case.
Jackie, Michelle Thompson was one of the 56 SNP MPs elected in that landslide back in 2015, and she was immediately given a fairly senior position on the Green benches at Westminster, made the party's business spokesperson down there. But allegations emerged over property deals she was allegedly involved in before she became an MP. Now, Ms Thompson always strenuously denied that she'd done anything wrong, but the allegations did lead to her standing down from the party whip. And later, a report was sent to prosecutors which named Ms Thompson in relation to this case. Today, however, the Crown Office says there is no credible or reliable evidence against her, and because of that, there will be no criminal proceedings for now.
And have we heard anything from Michelle Thompson, or indeed from the SNP?
Yes, Michelle Thompson thinks she's been completely exonerated by the decision today. She says that she got involved in politics to help shape a better Scotland, adding for now she accepts that will have to be in a different form. And she thanks her former SNP colleagues in Westminster. Now, those colleagues, the 54 remaining SNP MPs, had tried to have her reinstated into the party. They had a meeting where they unanimously agreed that that case should be put, saying that Ms Thompson had been denied natural justice. The party's executive up here, however, never got round to making a final decision on that before the general election. Ms Thompson didn't stand as an independent. She couldn't stand for the SNP. They eventually lost that seat, however. The party says tonight that it wishes her all the best for the future, and it's praised her dignity during the investigation.
Thank you very much, Nick Ardley. Surgeons have called for better facilities to give doctors somewhere to rest while on breaks. The measure is among a series of recommendations made by the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh. The college surveyed more than 500 consultants and trainees across the UK. Its report says it's essential that doctors have space to relax without meeting patients or their relatives. It also calls for a move away from the title junior doctors. Concerns are being raised about the rollout of super-fast broadband in rural Scotland, despite an offer from BT to expand its infrastructure network. The trouble is, they're only proposing a standard connection. Critics say that could jeopardise plans to have 100% of Scotland connected to super-fast broadband by 2021. Our Rural Affairs correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
It's idyllic Scotland, but despite its obvious isolation, these communities need at least a virtual connection to the wider world. This community organisation's trying to connect 1,500 properties on the west side of Mull and its neighbouring islands, but it's not proving easy.
We're finding places where people can't move to the islands or communities because they can't work, because broadband speeds are so slow. It's stopping things like education, it's hindering community growth.
And you don't have to be that isolated for the connection to be poor. This charity helps vulnerable youngsters at an old shooting lodge less than an hour from Glasgow. Good for getting them outdoors, but classroom activities are constrained.
The children themselves kind of demand connectivity. They're, it's an expectation when they come to a place that, even like this, where it's outdoor education in the evenings, they want to have the ability to do the things that they would do in their own home.
The offer from BT is to provide speeds of up to 10 megabits per second to 99% of the UK by 2022. It's already aiming for 24 meg by the end of this year to 95% of properties. But the Scottish Government's target is for super-fast connections of 30 megabits to all properties within 4 years.
30 megabits is pretty ambitious, to be honest, and I do doubt that the Scottish Government will achieve that aim.
These proposals don't look as ambitious as the Scottish Government's proposals. We don't know what it's going to mean for rural communities, so there are a number of questions that have been left unanswered by this.
9 out of 10 homes and businesses do now have access to broadband, but with a growing reliance on the internet for healthcare, banking and other lifeline services, the fear is the so-called final few will become even more isolated.
What we've found is as people get used to faster speeds, they use more and more data. So although people will say, oh, I've got 5 meg at the moment and it does me fine, they actually don't know all the other things that are out there because their internet isn't fast enough to support it.
BT's plans would see legislation dropped which requires them to supply broadband where communities demand it. The company insists this is not a substitute to the Scottish Government's ambitions. The UK Government will decide whether to accept BT's offer sometime next year. Kevin Keane reporting Scotland.
Scotland's accident and emergency departments have met their waiting time target for the first time since last July. Figures for June show that 95.5% of people who presented at A&E were dealt with within 4 hours. The Scottish Government wants at least 95% of patients to be seen and subsequently admitted, discharged or transferred within that time. Only the Glasgow and Forth Valley health boards missed the target.